Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tech Talk series by Quarter Knowledge Solutions. I am Saranya Bhattacharjee, marketing specialist, and today we are going to talk on a very interesting topic related to cybersecurity and the risks associated with it. So, today we have with us Mr. Chirag D. Joshi, best-selling author, director, ISACA Sydney. Hi, Chirag. Welcome to the episode.
Hi, Sharanya. Thank you for having me here. Really appreciate it. And hello to your viewers as well.
So, Chirag, let me just give an introduction of you. So, Mr. Chirag is a seasoned cybersecurity executive with extensive experience leading cybersecurity, risk management, and compliance programs in multiple countries across various industries. Chirag has been featured in the prestigious CSO 30 2022 list of the top 30 cybersecurity executives in Australia. He is currently working as a director at ISACA Sydney and has conducted several successful cybersecurity awareness for executives and non technical audiences in industries such as financial services, energy, healthcare, government, and higher education. He has immense experience in both IT and OT environments and has managed cybersecurity through demergers and divestments. Chirag is also a very well known keynote speaker and has presented numerous leading international and regional conferences and forums on topics such as cyber threat landscape, effective cybersecurity strategies, cyber regulations, security culture, and the importance of human factor. So, shall we begin, Chirag?
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, let's get started.
Yeah. So my first question to you would be, so do you see an increase in cybersecurity and risk management challenges in the future, with the increasing adoption of digital technologies by organizations?
Oh, yes. I mean, we are witnessing that as we speak. We are witnessing that in terms of the rising threats, cyber threats across the world, not just in their sophistication, but also in the volume. And look, I think it is just a nature of where we are moving as a global society, where we rely more and more on digital services. And look, I want to start by saying that technology has fundamentally been a positive for us as us as a human civilization. Because of technology, we've been able to collaborate better, been able to conduct businesses better, be able to serve our citizens better. And actually, I think it has been a really powerful thing. And we saw that even through the worst pandemic that we all went through, that technology was able to help us keep our sanity and keep our businesses alive. So I think technology is a big positive for us. However, with that comes the cyber threats and challenges. And look, the bad actors or criminals will follow the money, and they will looking at opportunities to make a buck where they can, and which is why you see a big rise in cybercrime through the digital channels, hence leading to the cyber threats. So that's one part of the equation. But there is also, as our societies become more interconnected, as we have more cyber physical systems that come together, nation states are involved with getting leverage over each other in the matters of warfare, in matters of economic espionage, in terms of stealing intellectual property and diplomatic areas. So you are seeing a lot of different aspects to cybersecurity that are rising cyber threats. So you see countries now which are pursuing aggressive legislations to improve their own resilience and their own governments and their own industries to respond to this. So I think while technology is a positive, you will always have threats that rise in complexity. And we see, through the ransomware incidents that make headlines globally, you see data breaches, that are making headlines everywhere, including here in Australia, sadly. So I think that's just nature of where we are moving as a civilization. So I think we need to leverage technology and harness it, because I think we absolutely derive so much benefit from it, but we also need to protect it. And I think that's where I see the role of cybersecurity is enabling trust in technology, which allows human progress.
Right. So going to the second question, Chirag, tell us more about the 7 rules to become exceptional at cybersecurity. The topic on which you have written a book. So
Yeah.
can you just tell us something about it?
Look, I think so. One of the big things with the motivations to write both of my books. So the first book, which was around influencing human behavior and cybersecurity awareness, I think that book was derived from the simple fact that cybersecurity is fundamentally a human problem. It's not just a technology issue. And if you look at any credible report on cybersecurity, it'll tell you that most breaches and incidents happen because of the human factor. That is a human tendency to be curious, to be lazy, to be greedy, to be helpful, to be empathetic, to be curious. I think all of these things come together to inform the human factor. So if vast majority of cybersecurity incident breaches happen because of human beings and the human factor, well, let's just call it what it is. It is not a technology issue, it's a human issue, but it's also a business issue because businesses, cybersecurity is not just a technology risk, it's a business risk. Businesses rely on cybersecurity to ensure the services, the products that they offer to their customers, to their stakeholders, to their citizens are done in a safe and secure manner and in a reliable manner, and that relies on cybersecurity. So I think the human aspect of it, the business aspect of it should not be lost, and which is why the first book focused a lot on the human factor and how do we influence human beings, how do we embed secure behaviors, how do we get away from this negative talk all the time around cybersecurity, which is just talking about breaches. I don't think that's a good way to communicate. I think you need to talk about the aspirational side. So that was the first book, and the second book built upon that actually to 7 rules to become exceptional at cybersecurity. I think the idea behind that is as we talk to business stakeholders, we need to make sure that we're doing it effectively. If cybersecurity is here talking about just technical details about vulnerabilities, about patches, and not in the language that the business understands, you don't get the business support, you don't get the business buy-in, which creates many challenges. One is you don't get the right investments. Two, you create a lot of stressors on the security teams, which are anyways under pressure. Three, the business is not feeling comfortable that they've invested the right amount. Are they truly secure? How are they managing risks? So I think it creates that disconnect. So a big motivation beyond writing the book was how do we create the tangible, meaningful connections between business and cybersecurity? How do we demonstrate progress through good measurements? How do we influence human behavior in a way that actually delivers value to organizations? But doing all of that, right? That's cybersecurity. But what are the differentiating skills or soft skills that professionals need to have to be successful in delivering value, but also growing in your own careers? Things such as emotional intelligence, where you empathize with your stakeholders and communicate them and engage them in a manner that they actually want to work with you, where you're pragmatic in your recommendations. Things such as good networking skills, storytelling, which is such an important part of influencing human beings. We as humans have learned to rely on stories over our evolution, such that we now, that's how most good teachings were imparted to us in form of stories, not just facts. And that's how we should communicate. So, with that in mind, with things such as harnessing good trusted branding, not just for yourself, but your teams, such that the business can reach out to them and actually engage with them, such that you create a culture where people are comfortable coming to you and reporting things to you, that matters so much in cybersecurity. You cannot do good cybersecurity without good engagement. And I wanted to provide a simple way, not a big, thick textbook. There are plenty of textbooks out there, but a simple, practical guide that people can take up and read, and within a couple of hours get a good understanding of things that they can do in an actionable way. So that was a motivation, and it's really based on my experience of working with different stakeholders in different industries, of talking to senior executives all the time, and understanding, on both sides what the challenges are and how do you bridge them.
Right. So, going to our next question, optimizing investments and cybersecurity threats in the enterprise security architecture is like the need of the hour. So, would you like to share your thoughts or any recommendations that you would have in this area?
Yeah, look, I think so. If you think about a good cybersecurity strategy, it needs to
Right.
have a few pieces, right? It firstly needs to be well aligned to your business objectives. Cybersecurity does not exist for its own sake. Like, what's the point of cybersecurity for its own sake? It exists to enable the business. So you need to understand the business processes, the products, the services that bring in the revenue are most material to you. It starts with that. Then you contextualize that with the cyber threats that are unique to your business. Look, not every organization has the equal threat of nation state espionage. Some do. Not every organization has operational technology in the environment. Some do. So I think you need to understand what is relevant to you in terms of cyber threats that are most important. Then you look at the control maturity of where you are versus where you need to be, because that helps you articulate the story and helps you understand how you need to mature your controls to buy down the risks that matter to the business. And then finally, you put in actionable, tangible activities in play that are relevant to the technology landscape within you operate. If you're a cloud native organization born in the cloud, you have a different set of controls that you can lean upon as opposed to a legacy type environment where you have a lot of out of date or potential end of life applications in traditional data centers. You think about it differently. So I think all of that contributes to a good cybersecurity strategy and designing it and executing it. Architecture plays a very important role because far too often the challenge we have is a lot of organizations have many point solutions in when it comes to security. So a lot of solutions that do specific things, web application firewall, endpoint security, email filtering, but that's not really thought well out in terms of how they integrate with each other. How can you put forward a common position that allows you to orchestrate your policies, that allows you to get a common view of the threats that are across your landscape? So I think you need to have a good architecture that supports that. How do you buy solutions? How do you deploy them? The use cases that are put in your solutions? Because what's the point of rolling out a tool without the right use cases? It's not going to do much. It's not going to be configured. It's not going to offer you the benefits. So I would always suggest that a good architecture starts first with an inventory of all the tools that you have in your environment, the security tools, understand the use cases, understands if they're covering the right assets that are most important to you and the processes. And once you have that view, then start thinking about how does it align with where you want to go on your target state. And that is informed by a strategy. So without a good enterprise security architecture, your strategy will not be well executed. And what's the point of a fancy strategy if it's not executed?
Right, right. Great answer. So, going to my next question, how do you think OT or IT convergence can make organizations truly real-time information-driven organizations and get the most out of this convergence? Like, how do you think?
Look, it's a good thing, right? It's overall not a bad thing that you actually, because of the convergence, you're able to do so much more. You're able to optimize, enhance so many different industries and services and revolutionize them from agriculture to transportation to mining. There is so much benefit to this. However, it does not come without its challenges and risks. So because now you are potentially opening up traditional environments to a different type of risk, you need to understand how that risk landscape evolves. Uh, and look, they're fundamentally different areas. IT and OT have different challenges, and it's important to appreciate them. We talk about patching all the time in IT. It's harder to patch in OT. It's not the same. The end of life for IT systems is very different end of life for OT systems. And the human safety aspect is so much more prominent when it comes to OT systems. I'm not saying it's not prominent in IT. There is a role to play, but the OT systems actually have a far important role to play there. So with these things in mind, you need to look at it in terms of a risk view. Also, there are people involved are different. IT folks and people who work in the OT world, engineers, folks who work out in the field, they're quite different in terms of how they approach learning, how they approach day-to-day work. They may not always be your traditional corporate workers. So how we engage with them is different. So I think it's important to realize the differences before you just jump in and try to apply this one size fits all. But it's also important to get visibility of your OT assets. I think you need to start with that because if you don't have that, then you don't really have much to go off on. And then you can take this traditional but effective approach of truly understanding whether getting the visibility of the exposures that you have and starting to lay out the control frameworks because industries within which you operate will dictate the type of compliance requirements that exist. So I think that's an important facet for you to consider when you look at your operational technology things. So look, all in all, it's a very big positive. I think there is so many things that are good and that will help us as human beings when it comes to different industries in terms of productivity, optimization, efficiencies, comfort. But let's remember that this risk needs to be addressed because we are seeing it play out sadly with so many different incidents that we have seen that have targeted to OT environments and which have real impact on human lives that go far beyond just data breaches. Data breaches have their impact, but when you think about the human safety itself, And that's a different conversation.
Okay. So, can you highlight major game-changing technologies in the cybersecurity area, that'll have the biggest impact in our world in 2023 and beyond?
It's such a difficult task to always predict, right? We are moving so fast as a society when it comes to technology. But look, one thing that we are seeing now and is dominating conversations is the advances in machine learning and artificial intelligence. So the buzzwords that we've heard around this have been there forever. But these are not just there's no white or black, there is no right or wrong. I think it's not necessarily one, like it's not all good or all bad. I think these are tools available to us, and how we use them comes down to our ability. So when I look at artificial intelligence, I think that is definitely a game changing technology as it advances. A lot of security tools currently have artificial intelligence and use it to be more effective. So it's a great thing. Chat GPT dominated conversations everywhere, right? But look, the reality is things like this will evolve quickly. How do we as professionals stay on top of it? And it's not all bad. Like, I don't like scaremongering around it, because there have always been threats. Google's been around a long time, so people could still find things. So let's not forget that. Yes, it has made things easier and it has made things better, but it's on both sides. So Microsoft's introduced some new features and some new products that actually are leveraging this for benefit of security professionals. So you will start to see where it'll work on both sides. So I think artificial intelligence to me is definitely something to keep an eye on. The other thing is blockchain. I think blockchain gets talked about a lot in terms of cryptocurrencies. That's just one use of blockchain, right? There's so much more to it. So when it comes to the integrity of transactions, which is a very important part of security, I think blockchains can play a role there when it comes to maintaining that visibility, traceability. I think there is definitely a role for blockchain that is going to go so much more beyond just cryptocurrencies. And we're starting to see progressive organizations leverage that in a very effective manner. Uh, the other one that comes to top of my mind is, and this is not new, but is definitely really come to bear in its true maturity form, is cloud. I think we're definitely seeing cloud now as a mature technology which people can lean upon, rely on to deliver services. For the longest time, it was this ambiguous thing, people weren't sure, but I think we thankfully we moved far beyond that point where we are all leveraging cloud technology in some shape or form. It doesn't always have to be public cloud, but public cloud itself also has evolved. If you use it responsibly, it's a very powerful tool for you. So look, I think for me, those are some of the technologies that I keep an eye on, but there are so much more, right? I mean, think about metaverse made a lot of noise when it started off, as with any new thing, brings out all the kinds of imaginations. But when I think about it, I think about the possibilities. I think about and I wrote something in my book around these things. I think about possibilities when it comes to, retailers, in terms of experiences that you can have for shopping, for so many other areas, for healthcare. So I think there is so much to augmented reality, to metaverse, but there's also the things you need to think from a risk perspective, from a cybersecurity perspective, which is around ensuring identities are relevant, ensuring impersonation is protected against, because digital twins, well, pros and cons, right? So I think we need to design this responsibly. We shouldn't move so far ahead and we try to bolt on security, privacy, and safety at the back of it, because that becomes really hard. We need to think of these things as we are designing them, because we're essentially creating a new future for not just us but for the future generations. And if we design that smartly, thinking about all the lessons that we've learned from the past, we'll be in a better position.
Right. So, great. It was great chatting with you, Chirag. Like, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure to get to know such valuable insights on cybersecurity from your end. And we'll be surely looking forward to a few more books that you are going to write and interact with you again. So, thank you so much, Chirag.
Thank you so much, Rene, for hosting me, and thank you to your viewers for taking the time to look at this video.
Thank you, Chirag.